Hello and welcome to the Crimewatch Roadshow. For the whole of June, we're live from different locations all around the UK. We're bringing Crimewatch to you. And this week we start in the northwest of England. Rav Wilding is there. Rav.
Good morning, Sophie. Yeah, I'm just north of Manchester, and all month we'll be tackling the crimes that affect us all. From burglary to vandalism, shoplifting to arson, even hit and runs, you name it, we're going to try and solve it.
Our number is there on the screen, so if you can help, we will want you to get dialing. Now, coming up, we have a load of criminals caught in the act on camera. Will you know the gang who went on a meat-nicking frenzy in this food store? They made off with armloads of steaks and chicken drumsticks. Also this morning, the door-to-door conmen fleecing pensioners out of thousands of pounds.
I was just mad with myself for falling for it.
Well, I used to be a very trusting person at one time, but since this has happened, can't trust them no more.
But first, vandals on the rampage. Rav.
I'm in the nice suburb of Great Harwood, but one night things turned nasty and these poor residents woke up to a devastating sight. 90 cars were vandalised. Here's what happened.
Everyone was upset, especially the people that the cars has been damaged, you know.
Oh, I couldn't believe it at first. I just couldn't take it in.
It's just something I'm going to have to live with every time I see it. It just really makes me angry.
Can't understand why people would do such a thing.
It's the early hours of the morning, Tuesday, 31st of March.
Well, I've been in bed watching telly. I think I just kind of got to sleep, and then I just heard this loud crash outside. I just wondered what it were. It was just like something shattering. I sat up to have a look, just see if I could see what was going on, but all I saw was somebody running away, and I didn't put two and two together at the time, but obviously in the morning, I wish I'd realised then, so I could have done something.
But this wasn't just one isolated incident of vandalism.
The first reports started to come in during the mid to late morning of Tuesday the 31st, probably around 9–10 o'clock.
The first cars to be targeted were in Cliff Lane, Great Harwood. The vandals then continued down West Cliff and North Cliff, leaving a trail of damaged cars behind them. They then turned into Edge End Lane and continued their reign of destruction along the length of Wordsworth Drive before finally ending up in Shakespeare Avenue.
Came out in the morning and we came down to the car and noticed like everything all over it. I think they tried to smash the window through, but luckily, because the plant pot they threw at it was so heavy, it's just kind of scuffed all the window, a bit on the roof and a bit on the door, but they've also keyed all the bonnet, but it's gone right down, right through the paintwork.
I was going to go to the shop, so I came along and one of the neighbours came and said, "Have you seen your car, Anne?"
They'd actually scratched all over the front of here in sort of, you know, curly rings. You know, we don't usually have lots of vandalism or anything like that.
Here's a typical example of one of the vehicles that's been damaged, where you can see they've taken the implement right across the top of the roof, along the A-frames of the doors, these squiggles all down the sides of the doors, and they've then gone on to draw almost squiggles and swirls and all sorts of weird and wonderful patterns on the front of the vehicle.
Damage on the bumper and also this rear panel.
They've started here and they've gone all the way down the panels and all the way to here.
There was 90 vehicles damaged during the course of that night. Total cost, we believe, is going to be approximately in the region of £75,000 to £100,000.
It's a nice neighbourhood. I mean, you get trouble anywhere, but it's fairly quiet up here. I mean, there's a lot of elderly people.
And everyone knows everyone else, more or less. You know, we don't usually have lots of vandalism or anything like that.
As well as the financial costs, the community has been left devastated by the vandalism.
Oh, I couldn't believe it at first. I just couldn't take it in. And then I got really angry.
I'm very, where at night time, if I get up in the middle of the night, I'm looking out of my window to see if there's anybody hanging around my car or anything. I'm just thinking, they could start hanging around the flat and things like that. You don't know what they're doing in the middle of the night. But I'm always looking through the window when I get up.
Wary, aren't we? So.
Wary of people.
I just feel vulnerable. And I feel, you know, that people are watching, whereas before you were safe.
Coming up, I'm with the officer in charge of the investigation and the residents of Great Harwood, and we'll bring you the clues that could help solve this case.
Also coming up on this morning's show, someone who knows more than most about crime in the area is the BBC's North West of England correspondent, Dave Guest. And this morning, he's in Worsley. Dave.
Yes, Sophie, I'm in Little Hulton this morning with Stephen. Morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Now, Stephen's not too keen on going for his normal morning walk in the local park at present because he got mugged. Let's help police catch those who did it.
And we're also hoping you will recognise some of this lot. They are all wanted by police in the northwest of England. Do you know any of them? Also with me today is Austin. Now, not only was his mother killed, but now his own brother is wanted by police over her murder. He is here to appeal to his brother to give himself up. That's still to come. As well as being in Manchester, we'll be featuring crimes from all over the UK, and we're going to need your help with all of them. Now, eyes peeled for some crooks caught on camera.
Who's this bloke with a hoodie prowling around this underground car park in southeast London? He's not offering a hand car wash service, that's for sure. He walks up to this black car and smashes the window. You can see the alarm lights flashing, but he doesn't run away. Instead, he leans in and rummages around. He eventually walks away, only to return several times, poking his head through the broken glass. What's he up to? On the last visit, he lights some paper and sets the car on fire. Within seconds, it's well and truly alight. Who is he? We need a name. This man and his partner enter PC World separately on the Old Kent Road, London. They hang out around the till area looking at goods, waiting for staff to become preoccupied with other customers. While the woman acts as lookout, texting on her mobile phone, the man pops behind the till and helps himself. Not very PC. Take another look at their faces. Do they compute? Let's have some names. This is Mothercare on Rye Lane, London, and this bloke is quick off the mark. Don't blink or you'll miss him. He walks in, grabs a box and walks out. It's that quick, I'll show it again. Here he is. Gone. What's his name? November last year, and this pack are on the hunt at a BP garage in Loxbottom, Kent. Having browsed the aisles and helped themselves to bits and pieces, what follows can only be described as a meat-nicking frenzy. They jostle for space to put packets of meat up their jumpers. You couldn't make it up, could you? As they try and outdo each other with packets of rump and drumsticks. Take a butcher's at their faces.
They're a brazen lot. Well, do you recognise anyone? Call us. The numbers are on the screen now, 08000 468 999, or you can also text us on 63399. Text crime, space, and then your message. It's important to leave the space or your message just simply will not get through to us. Now, all week, the Crimewatch Roadshow is in Greater Manchester, so what kind of crimes can we expect to find? Well, Dave Guest is the BBC's man for the region, and he's with us all week.
Well, yes, Sophie, this is a huge patch. Greater Manchester stretches from Bolton to Stockport, Wigan to Oldham. Greater Manchester Police certainly have their work cut out combating crime and, of course, trying to prevent it. Here's my guide to the highs and lows of life in this corner of the North West region. Manchester. Clubbing, footy, architecture. A vibrant city, diverse, confident and sure of itself. In short, a great place to live and work.
It's a really exciting city. There's lots going on all the time.
Culture, loads of entertainment, lots of activities that you can get involved in the city.
Very friendly.
But what's underneath the surface? What's the story when it comes to crime? What pressures do the cops face? What's the crime that worries you most?
Ones with the guns and the knives.
Drink. The accessibility to drink.
Who's protecting you? How safe are you? Are criminals walking the streets now? How can you help? Until the late 18th century, Manchester was a small market town. But as the Industrial Revolution gathered pace, Manchester's status as a major distribution centre for cotton transformed the city. That meant more factories, more work and more people. And more people meant more crime. By the late 19th century, youth gangs had appeared throughout the slums of Manchester. Known as scuttlers, they fought on the streets for about 30 years until the turn of the 20th century.
Most of them were from areas where there was little else they could do to establish a reputation or identity. The gangs were very territorial in nature, and a lot of the fights would be turf wars, gangs agreeing to fight about an area or to protect their territory, that type of thing.
At the time, Manchester's gang culture was attributed to a lack of parental control, a lack of discipline in schools, base literature, and the monotony of life in Manchester's slums. Sound familiar? Fast forward through to the present day, and we see much the same problem. In the early 90s, the city of Manchester earned the unwelcome tag of Gunchester, but then the police had a breakthrough. Gang leaders Colin Joyce and Lee Amos were jailed along with 9 other members of the infamous Gooch Gang. Since their arrest in 2007, gun crime has fallen by 92%. 2.5 million people live in Greater Manchester, and if you're one of them, you're twice as likely to be burgled as the national average.
I've had several burglaries. I must say the response from the police has been very good.
My house was burgled last year, actually.
Quite a lot of like petty crime, like stealing bikes and stuff.
But it's understandable, there's a lot of poverty in the area, isn't there?
People who commit burglary in the main are what I call polycriminals. They commit all kinds of crime, vehicle crime, robbery and burglary. And they often do it to feed habits, particularly drug and alcohol habits. And it's important for us to actually tackle those problematic, prolific offenders who will commit many crimes.
And has the recession made things even worse? Since last year, burglaries are up by 13%.
For some people who may have been criminals in the past, they may revert to crime if they lose their employment, lose their jobs. But actually, I don't see people who worked on construction sites and been electricians in factories suddenly becoming burglars overnight.
There's been less of it over the past year, but car crime is still a problem in Greater Manchester. In fact, you're twice as likely to have your car stolen here than in many other parts of the UK.
I had a brand new car and I had it actually taken off me, parked my car at my apartment, and some people came and actually just opened the car door and screamed at me to get out and just drove off in my car. So,
what did you do? I mean, how did that make you think?
Well, it was horrendous, really bad actually.
Organised criminals will target cars to steal them because of the value of the car. So they use them in crime themselves to commit robberies, burglaries. And what we try to do is to work with our partners and work with the community, make it more difficult for the criminal to actually get goods from those cars. So we want the cars to be empty and actually protect the vehicles as much as they can by using secure car parks. People make it more difficult for the criminal, will actually reduce car crime together.
We're back with Dave later on, and he is after your help with a mugging which has left the victim scared to go out in the area. Now, do you know anyone on North West Police's most wanted list? They could be hiding anywhere in the UK. Have a look at these faces. Our numbers 1 and 2 here, a 26-year-old Amir Hussain and his brother Nazir, who's 20. Both are wanted in connection with the murder of Yukal Chin. They're believed to be members of the Gooch Gang, who were responsible for Yukal's murder in 2007. This was the biggest gang trial Greater Manchester Police had ever been involved in, and it resulted in 11 members of the gang being convicted for various crimes that led to Yukal's and another man's murder. It's important to stress these two are only wanted in connection with the murder of Yukal Chin, but if you can help, please do call. Number 3 here, police would like to speak to these 2 men as part of their investigation into a burglary. The victim invited the 2 men back to her house following a night out in Wigan. She fell asleep, leaving the 2 men in her house. When she woke, she found a number of items missing, including a laptop, mobile phone, camera and Nintendo Wii. Maybe you can help. Call us if you know who they are. Number 4, police are really interested to find this chap, Ernest or Ernie Cunningham. He comes from the Shadsworth area of Blackburn and was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for false accounting last summer, but skipped bail and hasn't been seen since. It's thought he may still be in or around the Shadsworth area. Perhaps you've seen him. If you know where they're hiding, call or text. The numbers are on the screen. Or if you would like to remain anonymous, call the independent charity Crime Stoppers, and let me give you their number. It's 0800 555 111. Still to come. They're offering gardening work, but the only job they seem good at is cleaning out your wallet.
I was just mad with myself for falling for it.
Well, I used to be a very trusting person at one time. But since this has happened, I can't trust them no more.
And the man caught on CCTV setting fire to a bar. But take a look at this. This is what he wasn't bargaining for. He also sets fire to himself. Incredible pictures. Well, let's go back now to Great Harwood and the vandals who went on the rampage. In one night, in just 3 streets, they damaged 90 cars. Residents are understandably furious and they need your help.
On the morning of the 31st of March, car owners woke up to find a trail of destruction that stretched for nearly 2 miles.
There's been a wide range of damage that's been caused. Reference to the British National Party. There's been some abusive slogans where the offenders have wrote personal insults about the owners of the vehicles, or completely random signs, circles, squares, squiggles and scribbles all over the cars.
The vandals started in Cliff Lane and made their way along Westcliff, Northcliff and Edge End Lane. In their wake, they left horribly damaged cars and deeply upset owners. They finished up in this area around Shakespeare Avenue. Approximately 90 cars were vandalised on this journey of destruction. Police have one clue. This CCTV shows someone writing on a pavement outside a school around the time of the incident and in the same vicinity. He also matched a witness description. Could he be involved? Who is he?
Total cost, we believe, is going to be approximately in the region of £75,000 to £100,000.
And residents will be paying for it for years to come.
Well, it was no use getting the insurance because I would have had to pay more on my excess. So that was why I paid for it myself.
Because of this, I had to take out of my savings, which I have very little of. I'm on a pension.
If you claim with the insurance, we've got to pay about £200 before they even do anything. So I don't know about other people, but it's like forking out money, isn't it? You don't want to. It's really maddening.
Insurance companies base their premiums on postcodes, and they look at the crime rate. And this is, I think, about 90 cars were damaged, I understand, and it's like 90 separate crimes. So it will have an effect probably on buildings insurance and car insurance because of the vandalism.
If he's watching now, I'd just like to say that you can make some sort of recompense by coming forward and telling the police, admitting to the police that you did this crime, and at least that would go some way towards people feeling less angry and that you had the guts to come forward, and I think you should do that.
Terrible damage to those cars. Rav, I can't believe that someone managed to get through so many cars in just one night.
Well, it really beggars belief, Sophie, doesn't it? It's totally pointless, caused thousands of pounds worth of damage, let alone the shock of waking up to find your property vandalised. Well, with me now is DS Mark Gillibrand, who's actually leading the investigation. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
This is a quiet neighbourhood, so how come it's happened here in Great Harwood?
It is generally a quiet neighbourhood, so we believe that the people responsible must live certainly within Great Harwood or nearby.
Now, we've seen the CCTV just then, and you're really keen to trace who this person was.
Yeah, we're very keen to trace this person, as we believe that that person may well be the person responsible for the offences.
Now, I say it's a quiet neighbourhood. We've got a bit of noise going on in the background, but it's really important to hear what you say. Now, you're not sure how many people are involved in this, are you?
Not exactly. There's potentially up to 3 people involved who've been seen out and about in the early hours.
OK. You're taking this very seriously, and I understand there's a reward as well.
That's right. We are very keen to try and find out who is responsible, and so Lancashire Police are offering a reward of up to £1,000 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of these offenders.
Lovely, thank you, Mark. Well, let's go and quickly meet some of the residents of Great Harwood who've actually been victims themselves. First up was Jodie. We saw you from the film.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, how's this affected you?
Well, I mean, they've done a lot of damage to the car, but I can't afford to get it fixed, really. So every time I'm driving about in it, I have to look at these scratches and scuffs on window where they've tried to smash it, so I'm not happy, really.
And you've got a constant reminder every day. And Pat, we saw yourself in the film as well. This has really affected you, hasn't it? The cost of getting this fixed.
Yes, and plus the fact, you know, I was without a car when I need it.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, wasn't it?
Yes, it is a lot of money.
OK. Now, Peter, we can actually see the damage to your own car, can't we? I think we can go in and have a look here. This has really bothered you, hasn't it? Because the amount of money you've been quoted to get this fixed today.
Well, although it's only the boot lid, it's £350 plus VAT to have it made right. But again, I'm one of the lucky ones because some of them have had every panel damaged. I've even heard of one that were wrote off with that much damage to it. I just can't understand the mentality of these people.
Now, how does this make you feel, Peter?
Well, I can't really say on daytime television, if you can read my mind.
OK, well, I know that you're understandably very, very upset, as are the rest of the residents here. If you can help, the number's on your screen. Please do get on the phone and give us a call. Back to you, Sophie.
Rav, thank you. And there'll be more from Rav in just a moment. But I'm joined now by Justin Jacobs, Assistant Director of the Association of British Insurers. Good morning. We heard somebody in the film say that the building insurance and the car premiums will all go up as a result of that. At least that's what they feared. Is that true?
Well, across the country, vandalism costs us £2 billion every year and affects millions of us. And unfortunately, some of that cost does have to be passed back to customers, and it can add on around £20 onto home and car insurance premiums.
And when you get a number of cars like that damaged, I mean 90 in one night, do you treat that as 90 separate incidents or just one?
Well, insurers consider the cost of the claims arising from the incident, together with the number of crimes committed when setting premiums. So it will have some impact, but it shouldn't be significant in this area.
How do you actually calculate a car premium, a car insurance?
Well, insurers considered lots of different factors, so as well as the crime rate, some of the key factors will be the age of the driver and the experience of the driver as well.
Do you know where is the worst place in the UK to get your car insured? Hopefully not Great Harwood.
No, well, people in large cities tend to pay slightly more than the rest of the country, so people in London, Manchester, Leeds, also Nottingham may pay more than average.
Justin, thank you very much. Now, have a look at this. Some villains caught in the act on camera.
In May last year, Lee Aaron Sood and an unknown accomplice pulled up outside the Walkabout bar in Rugby. The bar was closed and people were asleep upstairs. Sood and a friend scatter flammable liquid and the bar goes up in flames. These guys are no bright sparks. As they make a run for it, they're on fire. But this doesn't stop them jumping into the getaway car. Clever boys. They then have to make a stop up the road to put themselves out. Sood was found guilty early this year and given 4 years for his trouble, but the police are anxious to find his mate. He would have suffered burns and is probably scarred for life. All we need is a name. Next, we're after this bloke in the baseball cap. He enters the Ghost clothing shop in Upper Street, London. It's full of women's clothing, so he leaves. Outside, he attempts to catch a bus, but thinks better of it. He loiters around for a bit before returning to the store. In a flash, he clears a rail of little black dresses. None of them is going to fit him, so what's his game? If you've seen him, or those little black numbers, call our number. Last summer at Tesco's Surrey Quays, and this man has finished his shopping. He queues politely and waits his turn, resting his basket on the side. Unfortunately, it falls off and he doesn't like it. He takes it out on the shopper in front, knocking him to the ground. Who is this basket case? He's wearing a black and white top, has short blonde hair and blue jogging bottoms. If you think you know who he is, please call
If you recognise anyone, do call us on 08000 468 999, or you can also call Greater Manchester Police on 0161 872 50 50, and you can text us on 63399. Text crime space and then your message, and don't forget to leave the space or your message won't get through. Now, we've already had a number of very interesting calls, particularly on the cars that were keyed, those cars in Great Harwood, 90 of them damaged, number of calls about that, and one really interesting one, apparently, that a name has been suggested for someone who potentially could have been responsible. But please do keep your calls coming. We would love some information from you. Now, still to come, the conman bullying the elderly people into parting with cash for gardening work that they never do.
I was just mad with myself for falling for it.
Well, I used to be a very trusting person at one time, but since this has happened, I can't trust them no more.
But first, the heartbreaking case of a murdered woman. Her son is the prime suspect. Rose Jatto was found stabbed to death at her home in Camberwell in London in January this year. And Rose's son, Wahimi Mesharoom, also known as Emmanuel, has been missing since the murder. Police received a call from someone purporting to be Emmanuel, and that led to the discovery of Rose's body. Well, Emmanuel has not been seen since, and now the family are left to pick up the pieces. Well, Austin, his brother, and Detective Inspector Nathan Eason, who is investigating the case, are with me this morning. Good morning. Nathan Eason, tell us what happened on that day, as far as you know.
About 6:30 in the evening, police received a telephone call from a phone box in Bromley from a person purporting to be Emmanuel. As a result of that phone call, officers went to an address in Camberwell, forced entry to the premises, and they found the body of Rose Jatto in the kitchen, and Rose had received multiple stab wounds.
You don't know for sure, though, that that was Emmanuel who called you, do you?
No, we don't know. We only know that it was a person purporting to be Emmanuel, and we only know what they told us on the telephone.
Austin, you were out that day. What happened when you got home?
Well, I got back and found that my whole street had been cordoned off by the police. I couldn't get back into my place and was later on informed by the police of what happened to my mother.
Tell us about your brother. I mean, had he been living with your mother until then?
Yeah, he from January 1st, he came to stay with us for a while, and this happened 4 days after.
And tell us about him as a person. What kind of person is he?
He was nice, gentle guy. Didn't get into fights or anything. So this has actually come as a surprise to us, and we don't know what could have triggered this.
And Nathan Eason, has anyone heard of or seen of him since?
No, they haven't. And if it wasn't Emmanuel that made that telephone call, I'd ask that person to come forward and eliminate himself from the inquiry.
Do you have any idea where he might be? I mean, do you think he's still local?
Well, it's difficult to say. We know that Emmanuel took a series of buses in South East London, eventually ending up in High Street South and East Ham at about 10 o'clock that evening. He hasn't been seen since.
Austin, you want to make an appeal. You want to talk directly to your brother. I mean, what do you want to say to him?
Well, I'm hoping that if my brother's out there and is watching this, I'm hoping he gives himself up, comes and tells the police what he knows. We're also hoping for a resolution to this as well, in that, we've lost a mother and a brother as well. And just for his own good as well. We don't know what his state of mind is and stuff. So hopefully he gives himself up.
This must just be so difficult for you. I mean, not only have you lost your brother, but you're having to make this just awful appeal to... Not only have you lost your mother, but you're having to make this awful appeal to your brother.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that the members of the public can help. If they've seen him somewhere, to call the authorities and stuff. And it is heart-wrenching for us.
Austin, thank you very much, and D.I. Eason as well. Thank you for joining us. Well, if you know where Emmanuel is, or if you're watching, please do call. The numbers are on the screen now, 08000 468 999. Right now, though, back to Rav.
Our next case takes us to the Trafford area, where police are urging people to be on guard. You see, con men are operating in the area, and they're fleecing them out of thousands. They're particularly targeting the elderly and the vulnerable.
I feel sick about it, honestly.
I was just mad with myself for falling for it.
I mean, I'm stupid, I know I am. I just hope nobody else does exactly what I've just done.
3 elderly residents, all based in the Trafford area of Manchester, with one thing in common. They've all been targets for conmen prowling the area. Between January and April, all 3 residents received a leaflet from a company going under the name of Tony Barton and Sons, offering landscaping and gardening work. George, who's 81 and retired, has lived in Urmston for 55 years. He wanted his garden doing, in particular some new turf for his lawn, so he contacted the company on the leaflet.
4 days later, he got back to me, and this gentleman said, "Oh, well, I'll be there straight away." And that's when he came. He sounded local to me. Seemed a nice lad, big heavy built lad, about nearly 6 foot, about 30 to 40.
The man initially quoted £300, but demanded a deposit immediately from George.
"I want £250 up front." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't do business like that." He said, "I've been done that many times." He said, there was one woman, she gave me £50, I did £750 worth of work and she never gave it me. Cash only now. And he was very plausible, and I thought, he seems genuine, you know. I gave him the 250, but he knew I had another 50 in my hand. He says, give me that £50 and I'll do it for 300. Don't tell our kid. Don't tell my brother, he says.
George thought he'd got a great deal, and the man said he would return in the morning with the turf. George waited and waited, but he never returned. And he wasn't alone. This man, a 67-year-old pensioner, wants to remain anonymous. He too made contact with Tony Barton and Sons.
And he turned up, introduced himself as Tony. So we shook hands, and no matter what I said, he could do it for me. It'll just be a nice, simple job, cheap. So really, I took to him straight away.
The victim gave Tony £700 cash.
But on the Wednesday come, no start. Thursday, Friday, nobody. So that's when I started to realise something's not right here.
He tried to find Tony Barton and Sons, but it was to no avail. The conmen made £700 from this man, but they went for even bigger bucks and bullying on their next victim, 69-year-old Clifford Armand.
His voice was more intimidating, if you know what I mean. I mean, you can bully a person till he gets you. So he was shouting that he wanted £4,000. So that was that. So in a way, he pressurises into doing all his jobs.
Over a period of 4 months, Tony Barton and Sons bullied Clifford into parting with £18,000 for gardening work. For £18,000, he got this.
Well, we'll have more on that later, and I'll be joined by PC Tracy Hogan on the hunt for the elusive Tony Barton and Sons.
Rav, thank you very much. Now, have you seen any of these faces from North West Police's most wanted list? Down here, number 5, this is Benjamin Murphy, who police would like to speak to about arson. A car was set on fire and threatening phone calls were made to the victim. The 29-year-old failed to adhere to bail conditions at a Sheffield police station in connection with a robbery. If you know where he is, do get in touch. Face 6 here. This EFIT is of a sex offender wanted by Greater Manchester Police. Who is he? Back on Saturday, the 23rd of May, a woman was pulled into bushes and sexually assaulted as she walked towards Stockport train station. Her attacker then ran off in the direction of the A6. He's described as white, possibly Eastern European, and in his late 30s to early 40s. He was wearing a grey coarse woolly jumper and jeans. Please, if you think you know who this is, give us a call. Number 7. Next, we have 33-year-old David Anthony Stewart. Stewart was charged with supplying drugs but failed to turn up at court. He was sentenced to 8 years in his absence and is now nowhere to be found. Have you seen him recently? And finally, number 8. Police are appealing for your help in finding this man, 20-year-old Vaughan Gannon. Gannon was sentenced to 4 years in a young offenders institute for a robbery that took place back in the summer of 2006. He breached the conditions of his bail and is now on the run. It's believed that he may be in the Oldham area. If you can help, please call. The numbers are there on your screen now. Let's go back now to Dave Guest, who's in Worsley. And Dave, you've got a story of a particularly heartless mugging.
Well, yes, Sophie, of course, no mugging is ever a pleasant experience, but this one was particularly cowardly. This is the home in Little Hulton where Stephen Bartholomew lives. Now, not far from here is a country park where he used to enjoy taking a morning walk. I say used to enjoy it because he hasn't been since he was mugged. Well, Stephen is here now with PC Mark Cole. Stephen, just tell us what happened to you.
Well, I made an early morning walk like I normally do when the weather's fine. I was going down the bankings. Was approached by 2 young men around 18, 20 years of age. One spat at me and one said, if you don't empty your pockets, I'll give you a piece of this.
He had a big stick in his hand, didn't he? He was threatening to hit you with. What did you do?
I gave him the money because there was no chance of getting any help whatsoever where I was positioned.
Now, of course, the money was bad enough, but there was something else you were concerned about. You have Parkinson's disease. You were concerned they were going to take this special pump that you have for your morphine. I mean, what would have been the result if they had taken that?
Well, if they'd have taken that, God knows, it would have inflamed the situation, health-wise. I'd have probably lost the use of my legs.
OK, Stephen, thanks for the moment. PC Cole, I mean, how common is this kind of crime?
It can happen around this area, because Little Hulton is quite a large area, and on several occasions I've dealt with instances like this.
So what can you tell us about the 2 guys responsible for this attack on Stephen?
As Stephen said, 18 to 19 years, 6 feet tall, wiry, skinny build with short, shaved, dark hair.
Do you think they'll have done this kind of thing before?
Yeah, definitely. Just through the ease of what they did, the nonchalant way it was done, and the way they just walked off after the offence.
So they've done it before, they may have done it since. I mean, are they likely to tell anybody that they've done this?
I would have thought so, yeah. I certainly would have thought they would brag to friends or people in the pub or something like that.
So people out here in Little Hulton are going to know these 2, probably?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
And particularly cowardly, the way they attacked Stephen?
Yeah, he's obviously a vulnerable person, just going about his business, and he was mugged like this.
What can you suggest people could do to protect themselves from mugging?
Just be aware of where you are, try and walk in public areas where there's plenty of people around. Just be aware of who's around you.
OK, thanks very much, Mark. And briefly, Stephen, what effect has this had on you? I mean, have you stopped going out now?
Well, I've not stopped going out, but it's on the back of my mind all the time, you know.
OK.
If you stop going out, they've won.
All right, Stephen, thanks very much indeed. So, if you're in the Little Hulton area, there's a good chance you know these 2. Please give us a call.
Dave, thank you very much. And just to thank everybody who's called in so far, we've had some very interesting calls. I'll let you know about those in a moment. But right now, from muggers to conmen, and our next lot are targeting the elderly. It's happening in Trafford, and they're conning people out of thousands and thousands of pounds. Trafford residents, tempted by offers of landscaping and gardening, have parted with thousands of pounds in cash for work that was never done. The con men are trading under Tony Barton and Sons and ruthlessly targeting the elderly. Clifford Armand had been bullied into paying the bogus workmen thousands, and the con men kept demanding more.
11,500 altogether, bits and pieces, like. And then he come for another 4,000.
It was a 4-month ordeal, and the con men kept up their bully boy tactics to extract more money from Clifford.
£18,000 altogether, and then he never come back.
2 residents in the area had paid for work and got nothing. In the case of Clifford, he had paid £18,000 for his front and rear garden to be left like a bomb site, and no fence to speak of.
He upset me when he did this a bit for quite a while.
I'm not going to trust a lot of people now. I'm going to make sure, and I'm not going to give any money down at all.
I would never give a penny to anyone again unless I get something up front. Never. It just makes you distrust everybody, doesn't it? And I just hope they get hold of them.
But I used to be a very trusting person at one time. But since this has happened, I can't trust them no more.
Not surprising, really, is it? I can't believe, Rav, how much money these people have been conned out of.
Sophie, these cases are shocking, and what gets me is they seem to specifically target the elderly. They've already conned at least 24 grand off people, but police think there could be a lot more. Well, with me now is PC Tracy Hogan, who's leading this investigation. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, Rav.
How long has this been going on for?
It's been going on for approximately 6 months. The first crime was recorded by Greater Manchester in March, but we believe that the victim was the victim in January this year, and they've been steadily, obviously, coming through over the last couple of weeks.
And is this localised or is it a wide scope?
We do believe at this moment in time it is contained within Greater Manchester, but it's certainly, obviously, not just within the Trafford area at this moment in time.
Now, you're concerned that more people might have been conned as well, aren't you?
I am, yes. I would urge that if there is anybody out there that has been a victim of crime with regards to Tony Barton and Sons Landscaping and Gardening, that they come forward and assist Greater Manchester with their inquiries.
Now, just while we're talking, I think we can see the leaflet at home. We've got a copy of this, quite distinctive, yellow in colour with the name Tony Barton. So this is the name they've used for this particular scam up here in this area, isn't it? I think we just have a look at this. Now, who are you looking for specifically?
Victims have described the offender as male, between 5'11" and 6 foot, well built, aged late 40s, early 50s, with dark brown hair, using a local Manchester accent and on occasions an Irish accent.
OK. Now, how can the Crimewatch viewers help today?
The Crimewatch viewers can help by coming forward and assisting us with our inquiries. I want them to be fully aware that no matter how much money they've lost, £100, £1,000, we urge them to come forward and assist us. You know, we would like to apprehend these offenders and obviously give the victims justice.
And it's important you mention that because some people might be too embarrassed to come forward because it might be £100 as opposed to 18,000 that we've seen in there. Well, Tracy, that's all good advice. I really hope people come forward. And if you can help, the number is there on your screen. Please do the right thing, get on the phone and give us a call. Back
Rav,
to you, Sophie.
Just tell us, Rav, about another trick that conmen use, this chalking idea.
That's a horrible one that we found when I was in the police, actually. Some of these conmen actually mark with a bit of chalk a house that they think is particularly vulnerable so that their partners in crime can come around and think, yeah, this is a soft touch, we'll do this one over. It's horrible.
Rav, thank you very much. Well, for more tips, go to our website where you can find 6 simple ways to spot bogus callers. The address, bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch Roadshow. And just to be very clear, we were talking about Tony Barton and Sons, the gardening company, and not any other business with that name. And staying with that subject, we've had an awful lot of very interesting calls from you this morning, so thank you for phoning in. One on Tony and Barton and Sons, a caller saying that they actually believe they are now operating in other areas. We've had a name given for one of the men we saw in the CCTV, the shoplifter in PC World, and also a police officer who's called in who thinks he may know the suspect behind the car keying. A full update for you tomorrow. Now, on tomorrow's show, the 18-year-old killed in a hit and run. His mother makes an emotional appeal to catch the driver responsible.
What the hell happened that day? I need somebody to tell me what happened.
That's Adam's story on tomorrow's Crimewatch Roadshow. Please keep your calls coming in. The lines are open all day. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.
It's yours for a cut price. A former hairdressing salon is among the homes under the hammer. Next here on BBC One.